So just a reminder again, we're formally moving into council meeting. During the council meeting, when we have a face-to-face, it's only council members that will be invited to speak during this portion of the agenda. We will once again start with an official council member roll call, which Lisa will do. And we will handle voting in the same way. Everyone will be muted, and at a time when there's a vote, then folks will be unmuted, as well as during the discussion period. And then once we have the council voting completed, we will open it up to any general discussion. So let us start with the roll call. Lisa Tessler.
Yes, thanks, Shirley. So when I call your name, just reply that you're here. Nicole Adams.
Here.
Dana Barone.
Here.
Mary Kay Cunningham.
Here.
Ecoma Washington. Keith Folt.
Here.
Betty Fermetta.
Here.
Jennifer Garman.
Here.
Chris Grandy.
Here.
Shirley Keith Knox.
Here.
Kevin Longenecker.
Here.
Florence Reed. I saw Florence.
Yeah,
Maybe
she's here.
Did she mute herself?
I can read her lips. She's
Okay.
sitting here. I can read her lips.
Okay, Florence is here. Nancy Ritchie.
Here.
Jean Searle. Leah Sheffield. Lisa Sportelli.
Here.
Court Wayberg.
Here.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 council members present for a quorum.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
So I think for convenience sake, let's try to have everyone who's not a voting council member mute themselves, and then the council members can leave their microphones open. That will make things easier for discussion and motions, instead of me trying to go through the list and unmute whoever's trying to speak once at a time. And if we do run into interference with background noise, then we can certainly change plans.
Okay. Good idea. Thanks, Lisa. So the next item on the council meeting is the executive director and executive committee reports. Again, just to remind folks that all of these have been posted on the membership portal and have been there for the last 2 weeks. Lisa.
Sure. So as all of you know, this has been a whirlwind of a month. But I do want to make sure that all of you know, council members have, council staff have all been teleworking and able to maintain all essential functions of council at this point in time. We did have to make some alterations to our plans, but we've been actively engaged with one another and continuing to do all of the necessary work. We have canceled several travel trips that we described in the report. So like everyone else, we are making the best of a bad situation and continuing to do the work the best we can. So in response to the coronavirus and the direction from the governor to restrict large meetings and face-to-face engagement, We convened the executive committee on March 13th, which was the decision to cancel all council face-to-face meetings, and also asked all grantees to cancel their face-to-face trainings and activities and to modify to online or conference call platforms until further notice. This was all, of course, to adhere to the guidance and state directives around social distancing and mitigating risk for spreading the virus. We also had scheduled the group interviews for the nomination applicants to become council members. We did have to cancel those face-to-face meetings and will be rescheduling them in the future. So as I said, we did continue all of the work that needed to get done, much of which did actually happen before the March shutdown. But as you remember, back in January, there were three activities to obligate funding that the council voted and approved. The first was the small community grants. So we opened very shortly after the January meeting. We invited small community grants out to the public. We received 34 letters of intent. The review team met, and I want to thank the review team for all of the time and effort that you put in to reading all of those letters. We invited 18 projects to submit full proposals for consideration. Of those, we received 14 proposals by the deadline. And after the final scoring and evaluation, 7 were selected for funding. So we are moving forward with 7 small grants for funding in the coming year. The second piece of the fiscal work that needed to be accomplished was we were offered 2 of the 3 projects to continue funding for 1 additional year of work beyond the end of their contract. 2 of those 3 grantees declined the opportunity. And so therefore, during the Finance Committee meeting, the Finance Committee recommended that that $120,000 that would now be available be dispersed through the expansion funds, which is what we'll be talking about next. That Finance Committee recommendation went to the Executive Committee for consideration. So the third important item as far as obligation of funding was that expansion money. So you voted in January to fund approximately $480,000 of additional funding to current grantees to do new work within the same objective. So that opportunity was shared with all of the grantees. 17 of our current grantees submitted requests for that additional funding. The proposals were shared with the council leads on those projects. And then 13 of those grant proposals were recommended by the leads to be brought to the executive committee for decisions. The executive committee then reviewed all of those proposals. And I will tell you that, as I mentioned in my report, the total amount requested by all of those grantees was approximately $880,000. So there are a few actions that will need to be taken by council today. The executive committee did also recommend the $120,000 be added to the 480 in expansion funds, but we're bringing that to you as full council for consideration. Let's see, what else? So that's the fiscal piece of my update. You will see in my report that we have been actively engaged in response to the COVID-19. It has impacted all members of our community, as you are well aware, and has had some very significant impact on people with disabilities and their families in Pennsylvania and across the country. So there are efforts underway with staff and some council members to provide some advocacy information, resources to the broad community. I will tell you that we have established regular meetings with the Coalition for Inclusive Community that had been formed last year in response to the announcer of the state center closures. We've convened that committee. We're meeting approximately once a week to discuss some of the policy issues that are facing people with disabilities in Pennsylvania, and they are actively advocating and for the rights of folks in our communities. So some of the issues they're addressing include rationing of medical care, support for individuals with disabilities when they do need to access care in hospital settings, and also the need for personal protective equipment for individuals with disabilities, their staff, and their families. Council is also part of a stakeholder group that is meeting once a week with Senator Casey and his staff, mostly his staff. Chris Grandy is joining us on that call as the council co-chair to represent. So he and I are working together. Laura Bale from Self Advocates United is one. Is also representing SAU1 on those meetings, so to represent the needs of people with disabilities and their families. And that's where we can share what's happening in Pennsylvania and also learn from Senator Casey's office any federal level initiatives that are in consideration or underway. The other thing we're doing is we are meeting regularly with the Disability Rights Pennsylvania and the Institute on Disabilities at Temple University as the three sisters in discussing the issues that are facing the community and talking about coordinating strategy and response. We have requested a special meeting with Deputy Secretary Ahrens, and that will be happening in the next couple of weeks. As was mentioned earlier, the PI grantee has offered to provide more frequent updates to you as council and committee members. And so those meetings are now happening every 2 weeks. We did not schedule a PI work group meeting for this conference call. Their next conference call, I believe, is Tuesday of next week, and you should be receiving invitations to attend those conference call meetings. As Celia mentioned, it is very important to stay informed and on top of the issues in our community. The last thing I want to make sure you know is that we are also meeting weekly with the National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities. Those meetings help all councils across the country stay on top of national issues and help us understand how best, and they provide us with technical assistance and guidance in how best to maintain essential functions of council and council grantees during this difficult time. So that is my update. Does anyone have any questions? Or I guess, Shirley, you could give your update and then we can open it for questions.
Yeah, that would be fine. Let me get to that to the right. Chris and I talked yesterday, and he was going to give our report. And right now, you're waiting for a new fax machine. So, on behalf of Chris and I'd be glad to give the report. Thank you to all that are able to join us for this April meeting. This is certainly a very trying time for all Pennsylvanians, and we thank all the people that are serving on the front lines, the medical professionals and emergency responders, community helpers such as the grocery store workers and the people that collect our garbage, as well as all the human service professionals, families, and caregivers that continue to support people with disabilities and their families during this pandemic. Thank you. Chris and I have been very busy since the last meeting. I'm just going to, again, the report is in the membership portal, membership work zone, but just some highlights. We've been planning with the executive committee and with staff for how council will function during the pandemic. And we certainly thank our staff for their continued focus on the work of the council in this time. You know, one of the questions that I wonder is, you know, Lisa, if we would have put pandemic on your list and duties and responsibilities, how would you have thought about taking on this job? And you all have done remarkable, and we thank you. We've also done planning with the executive committee and staff on some of the important funding decisions, and thus some of the funding decisions that were critical that they get made at the April meeting so that information can go through the designated process and that work can be accomplished and grants provided as we meet the mission and the values of the council. And we work to finalize the election process for the upcoming meeting. And just an update related to that, I've decided that I will finish out the term in December, and that will give us time at the July meeting. We will roll out the process, the written process that has been is up for discussion will be presented at the July meeting for the nomination of chair. And then the actual election will occur at the October meeting. And Chris and I will then continue together until the end of December. But folks will see the written draft of that process in the July meeting. In addition, we've been involved in many discussions related to how this pandemic is impacting people with disabilities, their families, and caregivers. And the council appreciates the partnership that we have with other disability organizations and our collaboration with them. And of special importance is the impact of medical rationing, personal protection equipment for people with disabilities and others who need it, and people getting the support they need during this very trying time, and many more. Chris, is there anything else? Is there anything that I missed that you want to add on to the chairperson's report?
Let's see here. I know the virus thing, because I'm not going to be able to go to work this week because I'm going to be staying at home. And I think Pizza Hut or my sister will call me to find out what's going on.
Yeah, and like you, many people have are not working right now and having to stay home, and it's really frustrating.
It is for me because I've been off work ever since this thing before it started, and I'm still at home.
Chris, it is very frustrating. This is Nancy. I understand my son is in the same boat. He hasn't been to work since March 16th. And I know it's very hard when we're used to a routine and we cannot have anything that resembles that routine. So hang in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
And then what am I going to say next? I forget now. Let's see here. And sorry, we have another call coming in on noon time?
Say that again, Chris.
Do you have another meeting to log into after this?
Not that I'm aware of. You may, though. You're involved in many other things. So you may. You may, but I do not. I don't have one again until 4.
Oh.
Chris, this is Lisa, and we do not have another meeting scheduled for this afternoon, so you can take the afternoon off. I know I've been keeping you very, very busy.
Well, unless he's involved in other committees, so you may have, I don't know. So at this point, we will open up for council members. Any questions for the executive director or the chair people?
Shirley, this is Nancy again, and I just want to echo what you said at the beginning of your report. The staff has just done a phenomenal job adjusting in such times of change. And Lisa, talk about being thrown into anything but normal. So you're going to have to figure out what normal is at some point, but you've just done an incredible job, and we're all very grateful. And Shirley and Chris, the same to you. I know there's a lot of work as chair behind the scenes that people don't see or aren't aware of. So thank you to all of you, staff, Lisa, and our co-chairs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Nancy. Other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, Lisa, your name's coming up on the, Lisa Butler, do you have a comment?
No, ma'am, I just hit my unmute button. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, that's okay. So hearing none, we will go into the acceptance and the ratification of the reports and the minutes. So I just want to bring your attention to, on the portal, there are a number of, I'm trying to get to my portal. There are a number of reports that we need to ratify, and minutes that we need to ratify. One is the nominations committee minutes, and you can, again, they have been on the portal. The last meeting was on March the 20th, and then I did provide the update as to how we are going to handle elections. Lisa, do we have a date of when we intend to send out the draft format for the July meeting around the election process that we've already drafted?
So the election process that was drafted went through the nominations committee to the executive committee, and now it's going to be put forward to the full council. So that draft will be included in your packet for the July meeting for your review.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. The other committee report that is on the portal is the finance committee, and I want to bring, well, it's also in the other report. In addition to that is the executive committee meeting, and I want to make sure that we address some of the recommendations that were made by the executive committee. I want to get to that. So there are a couple of things in the executive committee report. Again, Lisa in her report talked about there were grantees that were offered the consideration for continuation of funds that decided not to request the continuation of funds, and that came to a total of $120,000. So the finance committee and then the executive committee is recommending in their report that the $120,000 due to grantees deciding not to continue into the next year be moved into the expansion amount, what that takes us to what? The expansion amount dollars.
It will create that fund to approximately $600,000,
Okay.
maybe $602,000, because the January meeting, the council approved $482,000, I believe, for the expansion funding, and then this 120 would be added to that. So the number is approximately $600,000 that would then be available to obligate for the expansion projects proposed.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that somebody just came to my door. So then the other piece that I want to bring your attention to at the March, was it the, oh, I'm getting all my dates mixed up. At the March meeting, it was decided that the executive committee would be making the decisions around how to use the expansion money. So the other piece that is in the executive committee minutes are the motions, the recommendations from the executive committee to council about how we're going to spend that money. So I want to make sure that that folks are aware of that. It was the recommendation from the executive committee based on all of the submissions from the grants. And Lisa said that that equaled $860,000 total. That after reviewing all of those grants, the motion at the executive committee was, first motion was that Vision for Equality, their total request that they made was around $8,000, and it was decided, it was recommended that we would give them their $8,000. The second, and that the health law project would be funded at a total of $150,000. And then there was a motion that if we subtract the $8,000 and the $150,000 from that total amount that we were working with at that time, that left us with $322,000, and that would be offered to each one of the grantees who applied at a percentage of 48.5%. And that then what would happen is if the 121,000 was approved by council to be moved into this expansion fund, that it then would be increase the amounts to the rest of the grantees at whatever proportion that was. So it increased the total amount that went to each of those applicants.
Shirley, this is Rob, and I know I'm not a council member. Can I explain those motions?
No.
Okay.
Just because you're not. So let me read what Rob was the one who made the motion. So let me read it, Rob, and maybe that makes it clear. So the final motion was Rob Oliver moved that all the remaining funding made available to council should be distributed in equal proportion, with the exception of Vision for Equality and the Pennsylvania Health Law Project, be made to the remaining grantees. And the reason that any portion of the 120,000 would not go to the Vision for Equality is because we funded their entire grant, and that it would not go to the Pennsylvania Health Law Project because we gave them the majority of their request. So what we need to do is vote. So what I'd like to do is, if there would be a motion, a second to the motion, and then we will open up to discussion by council members. So do I hear a motion for the, are there any other, first, Lisa, are there any other committee meetings that we need to ratify?
I don't think so. I think the $120,000 that was now unobligated because of that will impact then the next decision around the proportion of the funding. So my recommendation is we, could maybe consider that first, and then move on to the next. But that is, according to my notes, those are the issues that council needs to ratify regarding the funding.
Okay. So we can either do, council members, question, we can do this in one of two ways. We could take each one of those issues separately, or we could take them as part of the ratification of the minutes from those meetings. Is there an opinion one way or another how to do that?
This is Dana Barone. I suggest if we're going to have committee decisions that we're going to have to ratify as a whole, I say we do it as committee decisions as a whole.
So do it as part of the actual minutes from the committee.
Yes.
Okay. Is there agreement on that, everybody? We're not going to do a vote. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then let's take the, really, it's all listed in the executive committee. So I would entertain a motion to accept the executive committee meeting minutes, the executive directors meeting, and the nominations committee minutes. I'm sorry, I'm getting usually all this stuff is right in front of me. The motion would be to accept the nominations committee minutes, the finance committee minutes, and the executive committee minutes. All of those motions would be included in those committee minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from those three committees?
I so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dana moved and Chris second, and now open for discussion. Any discussion? Because if we proceed, what we're agreeing to is that the 120,000 go into the expansion money, and that the expansion money be
Distributed.
thank you. Be distributed in as recommended by the executive committee, meaning that Vision for Equality would get 8,000, Pennsylvania Health Law Project would get 150,000, and the remainder would be distributed in a equal proportion. Any questions about that? Any discussion? I'm hearing none. So I will call the vote. All in favor of accepting and ratifying the Finance Committee report, the Nominations Committee report, and the Executive Committee report and the actions recommended in them, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions?
I do.
Betty, you abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next issue the next ratification and votes that we need to do are related to the committee decisions. And I'll just go through these. And I guess we need a motion for each one of these. We'll handle each one separately.
Okay.
Is there
I would like to make a motion that the council approve continuation of funding of the Pennsylvania Health Law Project housing demonstration for the amount of $50,000 for 1 year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dana, any discussion? I'll call the vote. All in favor of approving the Pennsylvania House Law Project housing demonstration at $50,000 for their 4th year, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Hearing no abstentions, that motion carried. Keith, do you want to do the next one?
Absolutely. I'd like to make a motion that council approve continuation of funding to George Washington University Transition Discoveries at the amount of $225,000 for an additional year.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second that. Chris Grandy.
Chris Grandy is the second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the George Washington University Transition Discoveries at a total of $250,000 for an additional year, say aye.
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 Any nays, say nay. Any abstentions, please state your name. Hearing no abstentions, that motion has carried. Thank you. The next one is the Temple University Person-Directed Services. Is there a motion related to that?
Yes, we request continuation of funding for the third year for $95,000.
Is there a second?
Second. Chris.
Okay, first by Lisa Sportelli, second by Chris Grandy. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we will vote. All those in favor of the Temple University continuation of funding for the person-directed services at a total of $95,000 for 1 year, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. And abstentions, please state your name.
Mary Kay Cunningham.
Okay, only one abstention, Mary Kay Cunningham. That motion has carried. And the next is the Pennsylvania Health Access Network. Someone make a motion?
Yes, this is Mary Kay. I recommend that the council approve the continuation of funding for the Rural Healthcare Access Grant in the amount of $100,000 for 1 year.
And is there a second?
Betty Frometta?
Second.
Betty Frometta is the second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do the vote. All those in favor of funding, continuation of funding for the Pennsylvania Health Access Network Rural Health at $100,000 for 1 year, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions, please state your name. Hearing no abstentions, that motion carried. The next one is the Indian Creek Foundation Civic Engagement.
I would like to make a motion that council approve the continuation of funding to the Indian Creek Foundation Civic Engagement at $30,000 for an additional year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I heard a couple different people. Court, was that you?
It was one of us, yes.
Okay, all right, we'll go with Court this time. Is that all right? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll do the vote. All those in favor of continuation of funding for the Indian Creek Foundation Civic Engagement Grant at a cost of $30,000 for 1 year, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions, please state your name. Hearing none, I'm sorry, was there an abstention? Hearing none, that motion is carried. The next one is United Way.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that council approve continuation of funding to the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania employment at $75,000 for an additional year.
Is there a second?
Second, Dana Barone.
Betty? Oh, Dana. Dana is a second. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, the motion is for continuation of funding for the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, the employment project, at a cost of $75,000 for 1 year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions, please state your name. Okay, hearing none, that motion has carried. The next one is PI. A motion?
I would like to make a motion that council approve continuation of funding to the ARC of Pennsylvania Policy Information Exchange at $65,000 for an additional year.
Is there a
Kelly, second.
Lisa? Okay, Lisa Sportelli is a second. Discussion?
I said I am a member of the PI group and a former member of the ARC of Pennsylvania. I will be with Ms. Lisa on that subject.
Okay, so the two of you want to second that. All right. Your dad would like that too.
Thanks.
Any other discussion around the PI grant? Hearing none, we'll do the vote. All those in favor of continuation of funding for the ARC of Pennsylvania Policy Information Exchange Grant at a cost of $65,000 for 1 year, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And any abstentions, please state your name.
1146.
And Shirley Keith Knox abstains. Okay, the motion carries. Now we'll move into, what we'll do is we'll move into any other business and then open it up for general discussion to anyone who's on the call. So any other business before the council, staff, anything we've missed that we need to go back over?
This is Court. I have a question.
Yeah,
So my internet cut out, so I just have a few things. One,
okay.
in light of the in-person meeting being canceled, are we going to get any of that money back since we weren't meeting in person, number one? And number two, can we put the Community Alliance Summit to rest in some way? Can we vote on it? Can we decide what to do with it? In light of COVID-19, certainly a lot of organizations are hurting, and I'm not even sure if in-person meetings would be happening in the fall at this point, but whether it was in person or virtually or in some way, certainly I think the council has the right to decide on that once and for all.
I mean, I think both of those are really good issues. Let's take them one at a time. We did get information, and Don, are you still on?
Yes.
Do you want to give an update on the arrangement with the hotel?
Yes, they allowed us to cancel as long as we scheduled another meeting with them, which we did for September of next year. So I had put a $5,000 down payment for this current meeting, and they're going to apply that to the January 2021 meeting. So we have about, and then had about 9,000 left, but we had used 2,000 for the cart And so we had about 7,000 remaining out of that.
So Dawn, Lisa Sportelli, are you saying that was for the Community Alliance Summit or another council meeting?
Another council meeting, January of
Yeah.
2021.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's not until next year then.
right. Yeah, so we're taking both of Court's issues separately. The first one was around this face-to-face meeting. Were we able to get any of the expenses back? And we were, except the cart, and also we're using cart. So, so Court, did that answer your first question?
Yeah, thanks.
And do you want to expand? Your second question is around the Community Alliance Summit. And if I understand what you're asking is, should we hold it in September due to all of that's going on? Is that your question or what you want to discuss?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was in the 5-year plan that's been held before. It's expanded every year. I think certainly a lot of nonprofits and community organizations would, well, I can tell you, down here in Philly, I hear from lots of them. Lots of them are begging for money. Honestly, I'm sure that's statewide, and I'm sure they would all benefit from some kind of meeting. I don't know, it would actually be in person. I don't know if, how that would logistically occur. I know we're trying to meet as council in July, so presumably the fall would be better, but nobody really knows that.
Right.
But it's been a council priority, and I don't know where it stands, but and whether we have a vote on that now or in July. I know there's only 10 minutes here on our agenda left, but there's a lot of side conversations and rumors and speculation. So I just like it to be transparent and that we either vote on it or we let it go.
Or the other option is that we vote on it at the July meeting.
If that is logistically feasible, that's also an option.
Right. So is it feasible for the folks who are making the arrangements with the hotel, et cetera? Is it feasible to make a final decision in July, or is a decision needed today?
No, we can wait till July. The hotel is usually good if we cancel because of this COVID-19. As long as we reschedule the next meeting with them, they're not going to charge us anything.
Okay.
If we don't schedule with them, it's going to cost us roughly $8,900.
Okay. And Florence, did you have your hand up?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Other Lisa. Lisa Sportelli.
Great idea, and I thought it was morphed together, and I thought in lieu of this meeting that we were going to hold the Community Alliance Summit. So I was misunderstanding. I was really excited when Dawn said that because I thought it was a great solution.
Yeah. No, we're handling the two discussions separately. So sorry to be confusing. So the discussion that's on the table right now is, the concern about the continuing pandemic. We have a large event. We have council meeting in July. And then we also have a large event, the Community Alliance Summit, which is scheduled for September the 16th and the 17th, which brings together over 100 people. And is there a decision related to the Community Alliance Summit that needs to be made today? That's the discussion.
I guess for me, the
Sportelli
would be in all of the chaos of the fee, because in the past we had our Community Alliance Summit and there was no fee attachment, and now I believe in how we are right now, we were looking at charging quite a large amount per person, and now because of this pandemic we might turn back to virtual anyway, so it might not it might be a non-issue, but just the fact that there was money allocated and it wasn't, and then it was, and then I thought it was for new ideas, and then I just didn't know where we left it out, and I'm with Court in saying I just wanted to know where we stood once and for all.
Well, I mean, the agenda is already out there. Would it be appropriate to wait until July, until we see what's going on in terms of the state reopening, and how people are generally feeling about coming together in large groups, and maybe make that decision in July if we're not going to have a financial, if it's not going to impact us financially in the sense that we've committed money and we would lose that money? Florence, can you say that again?
No, that's okay. I'll talk to you all later.
Oh, okay. Bye-bye. Good to see you.
Is Dana Thompson still there?
Yeah, Dana, you're still on.
And so am I.
Yep, Chris is still on.
So, yeah, is that Dana? Is this feasible to vote on this in July, or is that too late? I mean, it sounds like we're not going to lose any money if we wait till July.
So, I guess I should, we as staff, and Lisa Tesler, please jump in if you want to add or edit. We were planning to meet tomorrow with Dawn and discuss this some more. Some of my concerns with waiting till July would include simply the other things in the planning besides the hotel. So, for instance, the planning committee for the summit had voted to send out a request to ask people to submit if they would like to present at the conference and help us hold workshops, basically. In order to do that, I would have to, by next month, basically, actually by the end of this month, be sending out those announcements asking people to send proposals in so that it gives the planning committee time to go over them and pick the ones that they want. So I guess that all goes by way of saying that we had started to talk as staff. Is this something that we feel should just be postponed and held off until 2021? Are people going to want to meet in the fall? Are we going to be allowed to hold large meetings in the fall? I have heard some talk happen that there may be rules put into place saying that large events cannot happen in 2020. I just heard that on the news this morning.
Yeah.
That people are going to be told you can't have sporting events and large group meetings until 2021 at least. At least that's the conversation I was hearing this morning on Good Morning America.
Yeah, no more concerts in Las Vegas.
Apparently.
That's not fair. I like to go to Las Vegas. I can gamble because I'm old enough.
I'm with you, Chris.
It seems to me that our governor and Dr. Levine are really have demonstrated a position of extreme caution. And between the direction that they have demonstrated, which I extremely respect, and also the wonderful Dr. Fauci, who I hope he still has a voice going forward. I feel strongly that there probably, like you said, Dana, will be extreme restrictions, and also many people will just choose. I personally will choose to stay in a lot longer than things are released for health reasons. So, maybe that is the prudent thing to do. Plus, when we do reopen the country, there's going to be enough other stuff that people are going to be tending to recover. And I'm an eternal optimist, so this is way outside of the way I usually am.
Well, yeah, I would say, this is Court, that again, I understand, Dana, what you're saying about logistics, but I also, from what it sounds like, we have we would have a hotel in September. It sounds like there's a deposit or some kind of arrangement. So I think with all the uncertainty, perhaps, if it's July and there's still a possibility, maybe something could be put together or we can reschedule it. So I guess we can't really, I think there's too much uncertainty really to decide something this morning.
This is Dana Barone. Doesn't the Commonwealth typically require in their contracts, like language about natural disasters or acts of God, or like something to the effect that there are circumstances beyond our control that would allow us to easily easily get out of contracts such as this, like large contracts such as that.
So if I understand what Don I don't know if that's in our contract with the Sheraton. I have heard others talk about that type of clause. That, sometimes there are reasons that you just can't hold an event. It sounds to me like Don is saying if we choose to, we may be able to simply keep our contract with the Sheraton, but have it moved to 2021. So it's, Don, please correct me, but it sounds like you're saying the Sheraton wouldn't necessarily make us lose money if we didn't hold it this fall, but we would already have a contract in place for 2021. Is that sort of what you said?
That's correct.
So
it sounds like, Lisa, go ahead.
no, I said, so what I'm hearing is there's no fiscal loss if we opt to postpone. So planning could continue and then be postponed to a later date if necessary based on the situation in September. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, it's snowing again here, just so people know. It seems like there are two options here, and let's, one is that we, in the midst of all this, is that we cancel and we go with 2021. And then the other option is that we hold off until July and then make a decision. So where are people going on either one of those decisions?
Well, I will say first that it looks like we lost quorum with all the people leaving. So I think that we could wait until July to make a final decision. And if it sounds like there was a staff meeting to discuss this tomorrow, which I didn't know about. So perhaps after such a meeting happens, maybe, I don't know if any new info would come out of that meeting tomorrow, but maybe somebody could email council with if there's any kind of change between now and July. But otherwise, okay. I feel like since there's no fiscal issue, based on what I'm hearing, and maybe we can just wait till July. I don't know what folks think.
Is that all right, folks? We wait until July?
And I would just say that I think basically this is the conversation we were going to have tomorrow. Really. So, Court, this was perfect, actually. And I think what I heard Lisa also say is that, yes, we could hold off to decide this until July, and I should continue moving forward with doing plans as if we're continuing right now. And if we have to, we will just redirect our course after July.
Yeah.
So the other thing too, Dana, is you do have a steering committee that you could convene to consult with.
Correct.
And then report back to council.
Yes, there is a planning committee. I've been holding off on having them convene just because of everything going on. I didn't feel this was, needed to move to the top of the pile.
Right.
Yes, there's a lot of meetings and other things happening. So I feel like just to if there is something that should arise between now and July, I mean, everyone's Zooming now, it works. So if we needed to reconvene some kind of Zoom meeting between now and July, I think it's certainly feasible.
Okay. All right, so then we'll hold off on that discussion on July and then stay tuned for any additional updates that emerge from the council and or our government. Any other
Shirley,
issue? Yes, Chris.
what date in July is that going to be?
Oh, that meeting, I do have it. The next meeting is scheduled for July 22nd and 23rd.
Because the 22nd is my birthday. That's the day of my birthday.
That's right. And mine.
Oh,
and
really?
yours.
That's our birthday.
That's right.
Right. So the next meeting is July the 22nd and 23rd, and then certainly stay tuned as to whether or not that will be face-to-face or Zoom. So other issues for the council to discuss? I know that we have a number of folks, and Rob, I cut you off. Are you still on? Is there anything else? Is there anything you want to say, or anybody who is not part of council? This is the time to talk.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
From Silk, hear me?
This together by Zoom on how you did the staff and the
Laura, there's some background noise, and we're having a hard time hearing you.
That's not me.
Laura, can you say it again?
That is not me. That's
Okay.
not my phone.
Okay, Chris.
It's wonderful how the staff and council put the Zoom together for people to do it.
Shirley, this is Celia. I have a quick question. Do you know when projects will be notified of the allocation of additional resources if they're going to get some, and when they would need to be redoing their request and their PERT charts and all that stuff?
I'll let council staff respond to that.
Well, so I guess we'll speak to the folks who had requested. You're talking about the expansion funding?
Yes.
So, Carrie, I don't know if you want to jump in here, but I was thinking that relatively soon, because the idea is to be able to obligate this funding, quickly. So the staff behind the scenes have been doing some legwork and prepping for a quick moving of the process, but I don't want to commit to a date without referring to Carrie.
The one thing I can add is it'll be a multi-step process. So the staff will today, hopefully, or maybe tomorrow, reach out and identify the dollar amount that makes up the percentage that has been voted on. So they'll be reaching out to everybody to say, this is the amount of dollars that has been approved to you. And that conversation will end with a small, quick deadline that you'll be given to accept or deny. And that step is important because if somebody denies, if any of the 13 people deny the money, then it goes back into the pot. So we'll probably give a short couple of day window for you to accept or deny. Once we hear back from everybody, we'll come back around and let you know if that number has changed as a result of somebody denying the percentage. And then we'll give you some time. Again, we don't have the deadline set yet. We'll have to do that to then get all the information into us. So what that's going to look like is very similar to what you had to do to put in your bid, meaning put in a proposal, have the leads and staff review it and get back to you. So it'll be a process again.
Yeah, but just so you know, I mean, you can approve it, you can approve or deny, but it has to be based on a revised scope of work. Because you may have proposed to do something for 10,000 and then you hear there's 6 available. Well, yeah, that's okay, but as long as you understand that the scope of work has to be revised consistent with
I mean, I have concerns just in fact, if someone doesn't want to do the proposal because they can't do it for a percentage of what they requested, and then let's say 4 people bow out,
right?
And then 9 people get it for 100%, but we didn't fund somebody else because they couldn't have the full. I'm confused a little bit here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Lisa.
I'm only giving the information based on the way that it was, the motion was presented and voted on.
Right. But I think I understand Lisa's point, which is, if 2 people say no and that money goes back into the pot, and that money going back into the pot would have helped that person do it.
Right.
Then it sort of seems, I won't use the word unfair. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, Lisa.
Well, and the reason that the executive committee addressed it in this way is because we have to move very quickly or we're going to lose the money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the danger that, we had to come up with a plan that would work quickly. Rob, I hear you in the background there. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, all I can say is that the idea was it's a pie. And so everybody has a proportional slice of that pie. And whether the pie, the requested pie ended up being, $800,000, the available pie is 600. So everybody's piece of pie stays basically the same, or everybody's proportional piece of pie stays the same. And it was just about the only equitable way to do it. And I think that the problem that you're talking about is real, but I don't know, and I don't know if there's an easy way to address that without getting very complicated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from listening to those discussions, the executive committee did express that they relied on the recommendations from the leads, and wanted to assure that the leads who made recommendations for the projects, that all of those projects got funding, but it was impossible to give them.
You don't mean the
100%.
leads. You don't mean the leads. You mean the council staff, right?
No, the leads on each of the projects viewed the proposals and had, because in January there was discussion, how will council have an impact? And that was how it was recommended, that the leads would have their input and make recommendations, and then those were brought to the executive committee. So that was the process. So council members did have a say, and so the executive committee, to honor, to fund every project that the leads recommended, this was the formula that they developed.
Any other questions from anybody on the Zoom call today?
I don't.
No, Chris? Okay.
Hi, this is Bev Weinberg from
Hi, Bev.
Hi, I'm the Indian Creek Foundation as my fiscal agent for your work. I just wanted to express our appreciation to the council. Integrate for Good relies on individual and corporate donations for a lot of what we do, which has, as you can imagine, just dried up. And if it wasn't for the DD Council support over these past years, we would not be able to do this work. So I don't even have words to express our appreciation. We can continue to do what we do because of your support. So we're just incredibly grateful. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
I have one more comment.
Yeah,
I'm
Lisa.
sorry. I as you all know, I'm passionate about housing, and I'm going to bat for my housing grantee. That so I didn't understand why they weren't then fully funded. If we're taking this other $120,000 and throwing it back in a pot,
I just don't understand why we didn't fully fund a project that was already originally in our 5-year plan.
But didn't they get 150,000?
That's not what was requested though, and I yes, they did.
Well, and it was very close to what they had requested, and the discussion was is that we were cutting all of the other ones almost in in half, and that's the way the discussion went, and that's the motion that got passed, and that's what council decided. I don't know that it was any. I can tell you that the reason that we decided to, and I think it's a difference of, wasn't it a difference of $20,000? Is that correct, Lisa? Carrie?
Yes, so I think they've received like 80% of their requested amount, and
89%.
Yeah,
89%.
And then the other projects will receive about what, 60% or so,
63 or 64%, something like that.
So that's how the numbers worked out.
And the reason that we made the decision about it is exactly what you said, is that has been a priority in our plan for a number of years. We've kind of struggled with that, and that's why they got the majority of what they had requested. Any other questions from anybody on the call? The 32 people that are left? Hearing none. On behalf of Chris and I, we wish you well. I want to again reiterate what Laura said about pulling off a Zoom meeting. I think we did okay. And people, if you have suggestions about how, if we have to do this again, how we can make it better, please let us know. And everybody stay well.
Hey, Shirley.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm modeling one for you. Folks, if you need one or for your family, send me an email. They take about 20 minutes to make, and I have a list of about 60, but it's all I'm doing.
Okay, so, very cool. Thank you.
Let me know.
Much needed. Much
throw
needed.
Throw in the washing machine.
Yeah, great.
All right, bye, guys.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
Did we move to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, do we need a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, we do, Shirley.
Chris, do you want to move to that we adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Is there a second?
So moved.
Lisa Sportelli, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions, state your name. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.